All right. Ooh, what's this? A new Q&A feature. Welcome, everybody, to Season 2 of Paul Vato Presents. Or is this Season 3? So I have Jonathan with me. Jonathan, were you able, does Ian know, just to jump on? There's Ian. You guys already got it figured out. We didn't even need to do the background. There's music playing right now. I'll invite you up to the stage, and then we can go from there. So let me turn on my camera. It's been so long, I don't know what I'm doing anymore. Woo! Scary. So let me invite Jonathan up, invite to video, and invite to video. And I'll turn the music off shortly. We'll just make sure that we're perfect. Wait, bot. Shut your microphone.
Hello.
All right, I forgot to tell you there's sound effects. It's called Fireside. You're on Fireside. It looks like we're not streaming to Facebook, but that's all right. Welcome, and I can do a little intro, and then we can get going. There might be people popping in. There's other shows going on, so they might be on their shows, but then they might just pop into our show. So I hope. But yeah, this is basically being recorded. And it's also going out live, simulcast, cool. To I think YouTube and Twitch, and it should be Facebook, but I don't think Facebook is working. I got to reconnect it, which is fine because most importantly, I will record this. I'll download it and then edit it and put it back up as a podcast. I don't know because I'm so far behind with my editing.
Yeah, totally understand.
But there might be some people that pop in to the audience. I was supposed to explain all this in the green room, but somehow the green room disappeared. It's the craziest thing. If you want to see the photos larger, oh, my hair is a mess. You can always pop. You can always touch the screen, and it'll expand the screen. Or yeah. So whatever you're comfortable with. And do you have any questions before we get started?
Are we live now?
We are live now.
Hello. Hello,
but we haven't started the show, if you will. You're the second. You're British, or you're from the UK, Ian?
I'm from the UK, yeah.
Well, you know what? That was such a dumb question because your name is Ian, so of course you're from the UK. Yeah, it makes perfect sense.
Well, there's a lot of Ians in Scotland, but I'm not from Scotland.
Got it. Perfect. And of course, I'm going to ruin the joke, but I think that's okay because we'll edit it out. I was going to maybe play on both of your names and say we've got a couple of celebrities siblings here. I don't know if that's okay with you guys. Bjork and Michael Bolton's brother. I don't know. Is that all right?
Oh, I've never heard that before, Michael.
You're right.
Brutal.
You can say that. You can come back with that. I think that's perfect. I mean, like, oh, how original, whatever. Okay. If you guys are okay with that, I don't know.
Sure. Okay.
All right. And normally, again, we would have got all this over in the green room, but now obviously people that are listening know what's going on. But it's all right because when I edit it down to the podcast, then that's what we then that's all. It'll be all well and good. Okay. What's that?
Oh, it's all good.
Wonderful. So we might have some people popping in, and if the sound effects get to be too much, just let me know, and we can always mute them so that we don't hear. Because sometimes there's clapping or laughing and things like that. So I kind of like the live aspect of recording it live, but then editing it and taking out the ums and uhs and all that good thing. That's why I think it's so long.
Applause, I think, yeah. Or laughter, even, yeah.
Or laughter. All right. So I guess let us get started. Welcome, everyone, to Paul Vato Presents Season 2, or maybe even Season 3. It depends on how far back we go on my podcasting career. But Paul Vato Presents as it is. This is now Season 2, and we begin it with, we have Jonathan Bjork and Ian Bolton. I guess the first question has to be, what's it like being related to famous people? We have Bjork and Michael Bolton's siblings here.
I'll let Jonathan go first.
Well, Bjork is an awfully common name in Scandinavia. It's kind of like Smith means birch. So, I mean, we're probably all related. They didn't have last names until the French came in and did some things and talked us into adopting last names. So you know how that goes.
Amazing. I started out with a silly question, but we're actually delving into something that's quite important because that's right, that there were no last names. So that is amazing. Of course, I'm just kidding here, but and what's that?
We wouldn't delve into my secret parental information there, but yeah, he is my dad.
I'm sorry, and you're right, Michael Bolton.
Yeah,
he's your dad, right?
Let's spread this too. Yes, he is. Yeah.
Wonderful. He must have had you when he was on tour in the UK somewhere.
Yeah, I don't know who my mother is.
Amazing. But in all seriousness, folks, we have a couple of very special guests. Jonathan Bjork is the owner of Shadow Era Trading Card Game, and Ian Bolton is the lead developer. And it's funny because I do a lot of actors and things like that, but really the podcast that has gotten the most views or listens is the one with the founder of the Owwll app, which is an app that I use. And not to get into a pitch right away, but it's a great way to monetize your knowledge, folks. Download the Owwll app. It's 2 W's and 2 L's. And Jason Hill is the founder, and it's been one of the most popular ones. So I'm like, maybe we should pivot and just start interviewing more tech people who also happen to be very funny and entertaining, especially if you're from the UK. I think that's just an innate trait that you folks have. But so welcome, and everyone that's listening, welcome. And maybe we can explain a little bit because they're like, what's a TCG or what's a trading card game? And some people might know, but it's something that I've been a big fan of for 10 years since it started, and maybe Jonathan, so have you, because and then ending up buying it. But for folks that don't know, what is Shadow Era, and also, of course, where you can get it from the App Store. But if there's a direct link or anything, please feel free to share that.
Sure. Okay. Well, Shadow Era is a collectible card game, a lot like Magic the Gathering or Yu-Gi-Oh! Or Hearthstone or any of those. The main difference is twofold. Number one, it's free. So you can play indefinitely without paying any money. I collected every card in the deck and never paid a dime until I bought the company. So it's a fantastic game.
Go home.
It's true.
Which I feel bad also because I don't think I've ever spent a penny on it, and I've never played another app where it's not constantly bugging you for money. Yeah. But then again, you do end up then spending, and I don't know if we'll divulge that, how many ever thousands of dollars you ended up spending at the end. So you did end up spending a lot of money on it.
But you know what? The players who we value the players that come on and play for free because they're the opposing force for the other players, right? You got to have somebody to play against, right? So the larger the audience we have, the larger the player base we have, the better the game actually plays. The other thing that makes it really different is there are 32 unique heroes that play the cards differently than all the other heroes. So you have, what is it, Ian, 800 cards now, something like that?
Yeah, 813 at the moment released.
Right. But they all play differently based on which hero you have. So it's almost like multiplying that number by 32. So it's an amazing variety of ways to play the game.
Should be careful talking about all the heroes because I know that Vato only plays with one. Of this chat, we might be able to sell him on another one.
Wait,
I'm looking at your deck slots
You're telling me that there are more heroes than an elemental hero? I don't even know the name.
All the other ones you keep facing, you can actually play as those.
I've tried, and I just get so bored because I actually have to think about the game. And maybe I should. This should be my coming out party and tell people why. And I started with other ones. I've played other ones, but I play while I'm doing other things. Which that's what I love. The beauty of it is, if I'm playing online poker, my mind is on the online poker. But then I can just look up and instantly know kind of where the game is going. And sometimes it doesn't benefit me because then I just play too automatically and I lose. Or I just haven't updated the deck where there's these great new cards and I'm like, now I got to go through and learn these new cards. But it's just so much fun to almost do it mindlessly while I'm playing poker or while I'm editing or doing something else, that it's just there. And that's how I'm able to spend so many hours on it. And people are like, they're almost furious that I only play one hero. So if you, I'll have to sit down with
where you really know the cards, though. You do get to where you know the cards, and you can
I may
just
not know the name, but and that's the other thing too. It's like people are like, "Oh, you should add," and they list the name. I'm like, I haven't memorized these names, even though I've been playing for 10 years, or 11. How long has the company been around?
Oh my gosh, what?
Well, the game launched in 2010 originally, but then went on to iOS in 2011. So,
right,
that's when you joined. But I've got your account details here. I can have a look. I know what ID number you are. You're 644469. So,
of course. Of course it is.
Yeah. So, and amazing, you've got 3 deck slots as well used up for Elementalis. So you haven't used the 4th one somehow. That's shocking. All these other heroes, no decks, and then
too much about me.
Yeah, done my research.
Wonderful.
You did your research on me. You found out my famous dad that I try to keep secret. So
yeah,
now. It sounds like Ian, so you've been with the company since the beginning, and Jonathan, you inherited Ian when you purchased the company.
Yeah, you know what happened.
Me.
Kyle said, "You know what? This guy Ian is my best friend, and I'm going to go ahead and have him, see you through all this stuff." And he has been right there with it. So he's been incredibly helpful. He's coded every card change since we took over. And we just released a huge, 50 card expansion of the campaign series. And then an additional change for the balance changes and the bug fixes and all that. All that stuff was Ian. He did it all. And the game is playing so much better now than it has probably in the last 5 years. It's incredibly balanced. We got lots of traffic. I'm extremely happy.
It's good to be a part of it. It's good to help out again because I'd gone away for a while and then I came back. So I'm glad that. I'm over the moon that Jonathan bought the game because I guess if we want to go back into TCGs and so on, so many have come and gone since Shadow Era launched, and Shadow Era outlived so many big ones, for example. And it looked like there was a chance Shadow Era would close. It was either going to be bought or closed down. And to the rescue comes one of Bjork's relatives. I can't remember if you said how you were related, but anyway, so somehow you bought it and saved it. So I went through quite a roller coaster of emotions when I found out what was happening. And actually, I reached out to you as well, Paul, but I didn't get a reply till after you bought it. So.
Right. Yeah, because I was thinking let's put a team together. I mean, I'm glad I wasn't able to do it or make it happen because I think the ownership of the game is in just such great hands that for me, it was more just of a business thing. I'd love to save this game, be able to save it just so I can continue playing. But it was also an emotional roller coaster. I was like, well, maybe it's a good thing because then I won't be spending so much time on it. But I was like, how sad, because it is such a great game. And I thought, well, I'm like, but I had no idea about apps and what it costs to make one, or I'm like, oh, I'll bet for 10 grand you can make an app. But now, as I've delved deeper, it's like, no, this is hundreds of thousands of dollars or even more, and that's what I found out from Jason Hill, and now from you guys. So maybe we can also touch base on what it takes to bring an app to market, and all from ideation all the way to being on the market, and then the costs involved, because it's not something that's inexpensive, but it can be obviously a viable business. And it's so hard, I know, dealing with sometimes with the Apple environment, the ecosystem there. But so I'm glad, and I know that even to this day, some people have, and I say you're welcome. People thank me for buying it and saving Shadow Era, and I just got tired of saying, like, explaining it. So I'm just like, oh, you're welcome. Behave, like, or I'll boo you.
I know if you bought it, I think, because Elementalis and all the elemental cards would get buffed and so on. I expect gradually more heroes would start deleting from the game until one hero wins out, I guess. I think.
If I could have the power to, just boot people, I'd love that. So any way I can help and become part of the team, and then so I can abuse that power, it's
that's why I'm in the team. It's a long con, a really long con, but yeah, one day.
It's a very long con.
For now, I'll pretend to be benevolent.
I want to welcome the people in the audience. Thank you guys for popping in. Barsha's here, and Joanna and James. If you're just joining us, we're talking to the owner and the lead developer of Shadow Era, which is a trading card game. I know some people might be like, "Wait, it's just a game," but it is. I find it strategic. I mean, no two games are ever the same. To me, it's almost like chess, where it is such a mental game, and it's all this strategy, and no two games are ever going to be the same. Same with like Texas Hold'em poker. For those of you that play poker, it's you're never going to be in the exact same thing. There are situations that are similar, but you're never in the exact same situation. You just got to figure out how to get out of it, or how to win. And so if anyone has any questions, please drop them in the comments, or maybe we can even bring up a few people if they want to ask questions. I don't know if our audience is like, yes, of course I love spending all my time on apps, but we're on Fireside. It's another app, so I don't know.
Well, I mean, like you, when I heard that it was that Shadow Era might be shut down, my first thought was, oh, I don't know what I'm going to do with that 70 hours a week I play the game. You know what I mean? that was really freaking me out. Yeah. So fortunately, now I can spend that 70 hours a week playing it and pretending I'm working. So that works out.
Well, now you kind of have to, because you're like the Elon Musk on Twitter. He can't stop tweeting, you can't stop playing. So
yeah, balance changes, right? I mean, I got to make sure this stuff is balanced. It's like, sorry, I got to play a few more kinks out of this hero, that kind of thing.
100%. It was like me with Vato cigars. I have to, smoke these cigars, quality control, which did not benefit me on my first business, because that was a gourmet ice cream and coffee shop, and I went from 200 pounds to 300 pounds in 7 years from too much quality control, I think.
But it's good ice cream, though, right?
The best.
I listened to a lot of my father's music wherever I went, and lost a lot of friends. So I took up coding, and that brought us here. So yeah.
I heard that you've also influenced his music by teaching him coding, Michael Bolton.
That's right. Yes, we're working on a secret project together, which will come out maybe next year. Yeah.
Wonderful. So, did you guys know each other before you bought the company, or is it? And I should be more active, but I don't have time. I'm too busy doing other things and playing Shadow Era. I know I should be more active because there's a great community. I mean, with thousands and thousands of members on was it Telegram?
Telegram.
I don't even know.
Yeah. No, you're so right. Listen, the community.
What's that?
Community is absolutely amazing, and I mean, no joke. There's been some moments in the last 5-6 years that I don't know what I would have done if I didn't have my guild mates and that kind of thing that I could talk to about this, that, or the other. I mean, it is more than just a game as far as the social aspect of it. Of course, you asked if I'd known Ian before we did this whole thing. To buy the game, and yeah, he was that guy that yelled at me for having too many cards in my deck back before they took it down to 81 max. So
right. You liked 120 card decks, didn't you?
Oh yeah. I don't know what I was thinking, but
to 80, and I'd have loved to drop it further, but anyway. How many do you run, Paul? 45, it says here, max.
I try to keep it tight, and if I could even get it tighter, but I know that I need to update my deck. Everyone else is yelling at me as well. I think what baffles people the most is that I only play one hero, and it's always like, when are you going to update it? When are you going to play another hero? And again, I've tried, and I'll play somebody and go like, "Ooh, that's a very interesting deck. Let me just do that." And then I somehow don't find the time to update it. I'm just like, well, I don't know. I just feel like playing. I don't want to do all this other work. I'm very curious to see what our audience thinks. Like, what are these guys rambling on about? Trading card games, or maybe it's more popular than I know. So I think as long as people are entertained, that's great.
They should try it out, right? It's free, nothing to lose. Just go and download it on Android, iOS, Windows, Mac. It doesn't matter. And everyone plays against each other. It's all cross-platform, right? So play it, then you'll understand it's an amazing opportunity to really exercise that strategic part of our minds that kind of goes to sleep once we get into the real world. You know what I mean? It's a real good opportunity to do that. So, but you know what? You were saying you haven't updated your deck in a long time. That kind of goes to your advantage sometimes, because every time I end up being matched up against you, I forget that some of those cards even exist because people don't run them anymore. Like that one that gives me so much trouble that's immune to all combat damage, right? No one plays that card but you, but it gets in the way because we don't have counters for it.
Woven Savage.
That's him.
Woven Savage. Thank you. I was going to say Woven something. I don't. And again, 10 years and I still don't know the names of it. And so it amazes me when people are like, "Oh, you need to," and they rattle off the names. I'm like, I don't know the names. I haven't taken my brain is full with other things that I can't memorize. Hundreds of cards, which I used to do when I was young and I played Magic: The Gathering. So for folks that are listening, it's like, I think, a better Magic: The Gathering. Where you're playing heroes and there's energy and life force, really, that you're trying to knock the other person down to zero. And if they go to shadowera.com or just Google Shadow Era, of course they can find it. And it's great that it's across all these platforms. I mean, does that pose challenges, or now that it's done?
Yeah, Apple has some very specific requirements sometimes. And in this last update, it delayed the. We had some people playing on one version and other people playing on another because they had a brand new requirement that we didn't know about that they came up with. So we met that. Now everybody's on the same version finally. But that was harrowing for everyone up here. So
and that's what I also gathered from Jason Hill, the founder of Owwll. It's like with Apple, there's all these things. If they don't approve you, it's not there, it's not live, or the update's not done. And they can come up with whatever they want at any time, and you're kind of beholden to them. And I didn't realize how much money they actually take as a percentage when there are purchases through the App Store. I mean, I guess that's how they make their money.
It's a big chunk, but still, it's a great platform. So
I think if we go back to when it launched on iOS, there was so much coverage about it because it was the first full-scale TCG on mobile. So it was on iOS and Android, and it got great reviews on Touch Arcade and Pocket Lint and various other. It got good coverage anyway. That's how I found it. I had an iPhone 3GS, and I was bored one Easter, and I was scrolling, and I wanted a new app for my phone. And being able to play a trading card game on my phone was brilliant. And I was hooked from then. That was April 2011. So, yeah. Been going a long time.
When did I join?
When did you join? Oh,
This is Ian, the numbers guy. I'm curious. It must have been right around that same time.
oh yeah,
because
actually, the 21st of April,
What?
2011.
Well, there
Oh
you
my
go.
goodness.
So now Ian knows all the card names, by the way. He doesn't have the same problem. He knows all the cards. Of course, he made half of them up. So,
Yeah, that's true. I do. I mean, there's quite a large design team at one point, but generally, when it came to card names, people weren't that bothered about them, whereas it really mattered to me. So I would try and, I mean, like Laerian Seductress, you're probably familiar with her, at least her image anyway. So I think she was originally like a busker or what are those people? I've forgotten what they're called now. A traveling character
Musician?
that. No, I've forgotten it. A bard, maybe something like that.
Bard.
Anyway, she was like a bard, but then we changed her to the seductress, so she comes in and she distracts you for your money. Effectively, that's why she only does her thing if you've got more resources, well, less resources than the other person, or less or the same anyway. So yeah, Laerian Seductress, and we got some lovely artwork for her. But originally, she was a traveling minstrel. That was it, minstrel.
Minstrel.
But it fit with the effect anyway. But yeah,
It sounds like a lot of the women that I've gone out with. They've distracted me for my money.
that's about
right.
right.
She's also made up. Yeah, maybe a minstrel in disguise. Yeah.
A minstrel in disguise. That's what we call the working girls out here in Vegas. So you guys have to come out to Vegas for a visit. Ian, have you visited the States? Have you toured the country? Or
I've been to the States a couple of times. I came actually for Gen Con in 2012 for Shadow Era, actually. So that was one of only 2 times I've been to the US. The other time was for my honeymoon. So in 2004. So let's see, 2004, 20. I'm due to come again, I think, to the US.
You got to go to Vegas.
Every 7 or 8 years. And Jonathan, have you visited? Had a chance to visit Vegas often, or?
Oh yeah, well, I got married in Vegas, so that was Cupid's wedding chapel. Woo! Like 29 years ago. So
Wow.
yeah.
And I love, because my wife always had, and that's maybe why she's my ex-wife. She was always like, "Why are you always on the game?" And she even joined for a little bit. I think she'd be like, "Well, let me connect with this guy, if only through Shadow Era." And she goes, that you're probably just playing like 12-year-old Korean boys. I'm like, I don't know if that's true, but that was always her thing. She didn't understand the depth, I think, of the strategy that's involved, and just the sheer fun aspect of Shadow Era. So anyone that's listening, anyone that's just joined us, we're talking about Shadow Era, the trading card game. We're here with the owner and the lead developer. And, please just go to shadowera.com or Google Shadow Era and download it from the App Store or from Google Play. It's across all platforms. And Jonathan, just like you were saying, it's such a fun game to play. And we've been doing it since April of 2011. So
right. And it's a great community. It's a great way to spend some time and meet some people, and it's all about the game. It's all about the strategies. And we do have kids that play. I mean, there are some young people that play, but our research shows us that our demographic is between 18 and 35. The majority is between 18 and 35, like 72%. So it's not something you're going to outgrow. And that's really what I like about it is, some of the better trading card games are designed for kids. Yu-Gi-Oh, Pokemon, they're really designed for children, right? So when you become an adult, some people continue to play and just say, I don't care. I'm still going to play this stuff, right? But it's kind of kiddie looking, right? But Shadow Era, that's some serious stuff. The artwork is aimed at an adult audience or a more mature audience. And so you don't have to be embarrassed that you still play Pokemon or something, I mean, it's a great game,
It really is. It reminds me when I said, playing kids or children, and this is why I think I'm always very leery of communicating with people. So I hope the story actually comes out the way it's intended to be. But so I go by Sir Vato on Shadow Era, and so sometimes people know what Vato means, and Vato, for those that don't know, means dude in Spanish. It's Mexican slang for dude, or like, hey, that Vato, orale Vato. But it's very much also like gang culture. So there was a movie here, Blood In, Blood Out, that I think people from all over the world saw it. So that's kind of their perception of maybe Mexican American culture, is this gang culture. And so it's like there are sayings like Simon and ese and orale. And orale is just, it's very Mexican slang, like, come on, let's go, orale, orale. So I remember somebody was chatting with me, dropping all this slang, and I put orale, and there's supposed to be a little tilde, I think it's called, over the O for the emphasis, orale. But damn autocorrected it to oral.
Oh,
right. Yes.
And I'm like, the last thing I need is somebody to go like, did you just ask my child or my wife for oral? Like, no, it's supposed to be orale.
Oh.
But this damn autocorrect. So if you could fix that, I don't know who fixes autocorrect, but that I had an issue with. So that's why I'm always very leery of even typing anything.
I think it's Apple. Got to blame Apple for that one.
I'll blame Apple.
If you're on your phone and that's auto-corrected it to oral, then.
I am Dave is in the chat, and he said 18 to 35. Damn, I'm too old. Jokes. I'll check it out. So we're going to have Dave downloading Shadow Era and hopefully joining us on the app.
I think we're all older than 35 and we're still playing.
Now, maybe let's talk a little bit about monetization, because, again, I feel like I should even just cut you guys a check for whatever, because I don't think I've ever spent a penny, and that is rare that an app, it's more rare that you're not just constantly giving me the option to buy something. It's there, like, hey, buy, how can people help support if they are looking, but you're also getting physical cards. Is that how that works? Or
we had physical cards for a while. That didn't go well. And if we ever do that again, it'll be in a much better way. That I think they got into that endeavor not understanding what was. I'm from that background. We did the physical cards with Magic, with Heroes of Might and Magic, and with battle cards, and we're talking the outlay to get started is a couple $100,000. I mean, that's just really to get started. If you want to have a decent variety of what you're printing. So I mean, I don't think they understood that just because they had a great game, they couldn't just automatically go to tabletop. So that's not probably what we're gonna do in the near future. What we are doing, though, is we're expanding the game dramatically, right? We're gonna go on a development pace of 200 cards per year minimum. Okay, that's what we're trying to do. I feel like we can accomplish that. We've got a great VDT, and then we've got Ian and a couple of other guys that are wanting to be more and more involved. The community is really coming together on it, and so what we really would like you to do is just play, right? The more people play, the better. We're gonna make an effort to get some sponsorships, some commercial sponsorships. They won't be intrusive if we do that. But the other thing is that a lot of people don't, have more money than time, right? You and I, we played it because we had time to burn. Other people, they play it for the challenge, but they don't want to spend 6 months coming up to speed, right? And those guys choose the shortcut, and they'll buy cards that they could otherwise earn for free, and that's fine. That's a good thing, right? So the more people play, the more of those people that come in, and the larger the audience, it's easier to get sponsorships. What we really need is just people to just play. So don't feel bad if you're playing the game and you're not paying. You playing is participating in the game.
Wonderful. I love it. So folks, yeah, definitely download the game. And I would say this isn't a sales pitch for it, because you're not really buying anything, but it is. I mean, it is just such a fun game. And I wouldn't have been doing this for 12 years now, coming up on 12 years, if it wasn't that entertaining. And I remember I was so excited when I first saw it, because it was right around that time where I was like, what happened to Magic the Gathering? You know, because I used to play in the '90s. I used to play in the suburbs of Chicago, and I was like, that was so much fun. And there wasn't. I'm sure I checked every so often, and there never was anything until Shadow Era came up. I was like, oh, let me try it. And I've tried other ones, and none of them really compare to the level of gameplay that Shadow Era has. So I'm really glad that you did save it. I think I was going to be okay if it went away, but I was very sad. So it was wonderful that you came in and saved it. How did you guys agree on the price? I don't know if this is anything that you want to discuss, and we don't have to, of course. But how did those negotiations kind of happen? And why did they want to sell it? I mean, were they just no longer interested in supporting the game?
I understand that the previous developer, Kyle, had another opportunity that precludes him from competing with the new company he's working with. So he had to get out of a competing product. And so he had to either shut it down or sell it. And obviously selling it was better for him than shutting it down. So
wonderful. Okay, that makes perfect sense. So yeah, I'm really glad that you were able to come in, and hopefully it's been profitable, or at least paying for itself, because I know, you know, there's definitely expenses that go along with not only maintaining a game, but also, of course, paying developers. You know how expensive they are.
Well, fortunately, Ian's cut me some slack on that, but yeah, you know, it has paid for itself. We haven't had to put extra money in. There's been a couple of months that it's done really well, but our plans are to get to a 50,000 active user status within a year, and I think that we're on track to do that.
What are we at now? I'm part of the company.
Absolutely right.
I'm part of the community.
We've got about 12,000 total users. About 8,000 of them are actually active.
Okay, wonderful. And you think within a year we could get it up to that 50,000?
We can get there. I understand that we've been there before, way back when, before all that other stuff happened. So,
there was a massive amount of players because, you know, it was the only one for a while, and then all these competitors came along, like Hearthstone. Anyway, that one, HS, we could call it that if we want, or BS if we want to poo-poo it. But anyway, yeah, so they've come along, and obviously when you're playing Shadow Era, you're making a choice to play that as opposed to play any other thing. You're not just competing with trading cards, you're competing with watching Netflix, or you're competing with playing on a console on Elden Ring or whatever. So, you know, more and more things have come up people can do instead of Shadow Era. But Jonathan talked about there being like 12,000 active users at the moment. All the accounts are still there from when people have created it and really played it a lot in 2011, 2012. If they want to come back, all their cards are still there. There's actually something like 4 million accounts that exist in the database, you know, so people could come back if they want and find all of their collection. Because when the physical Kickstarter happened to raise money to print the cards, a lot of people bought into that and got a lot of digital bonuses as well. So they may well actually have some decent accounts to come back to and go from there, basically. So, you know, there's all those accounts there. If anyone's listening or watching who's played in the past, sometimes I do rate, I say I work on the game, I play on the game Shadow Era. So I used to play on that, but then for whatever reason, I stopped. You know, they could come back if they want, see what's changed. Or they could carry on with the same decks they created 10 years ago, like you.
They'll be like, Sir Vato is still here.
So, you know,
exactly. Nothing's changed.
That is actually interesting. That it does kind of make Shadow Era unique, though. We don't rotate, right? Like some of these other card games, they'll take certain cards that they did 3 or 4 years ago and rotate them out of power and put in other things that are more powerful that replace them, and then they'll rotate them back. And we don't do that. Your deck that you built 10 years ago will do what it did 10 years ago. Now, there may be more counters to it now, that you don't know about that you're going to run into, but it's still going to be a viable deck. And if people have forgotten some of those cards, like I did Wolven Savage, you could surprise some people with some of that stuff.
The best one is when someone doesn't know and they attack it 3 times because it doesn't take battle damage. Now, it'll take a spell damage, sure, but it won't take battle damage. And I've been attacked 3 or 4 times on the same turn, and they're probably like, "Why can't I kill this guy?" I'm like, "Read the card." Read the card.
Exactly. Now, speaking of reading cards, so you've got a couple of copies of Transference, which brings a card from the opponent's deck to you. Now, at that point, when you see a card you've not seen before, you have to read. What do you just sacrifice it, or do you play it? Because you get that card.
That turn will take me longer because I will read the card, even if it's something that I'm somewhat familiar with, because I forget sometimes. So I got to really think, how can I implement this card into my deck? Because it's not a card, but then sometimes you pull a really good card that I like it because it's taking away a card from you that you probably need because it's in your deck. And if it benefits me, if it doesn't, then yeah, you just get rid of it. But I'll read it and reread it. And that's sometimes what slows me down. If I'm doing something else, I'll be like, oh, hang on, what does this card actually do? And how can I implement it? So if that's the question, yeah, I'll read it and then get rid of it. I'll sacrifice it if I don't need it. But I get a special joy of taking your card and using it against you.
Oh yeah, no doubt. And when you're playing against somebody that has a 40 card deck, if they're playing, absolute minimum card count, that could be a big deal. I mean, you could be taking a card that they really, really need.
I would rather take a card from somebody that's got a very tight deck than somebody's got 60 cards. Like, I'll even sacrifice that because I'm like, the chances of getting a very important card are probably pretty slim, unless they've got 4 of each, and that's why the deck is so beefed up. But I like it when it's a very tight deck because you're most likely taking something that they really needed or wanted.
Oh yeah, no doubt. Well, the game went without an update for like almost a year before the.
At times, yeah. I mean, they went for more than a year without any new cards.
That's crazy. We'll never do that again. We're going to constantly be in a constant state of development. And I'll tell you what, these guys keep coming up with ideas. Like 5-6 times a day, I'll get a card idea from someone, either on the volunteer development team or from one of the key members, or even just from a random player that just says, "Hey, why don't we have a card that does this?" Mm-hmm. So some of those are good ideas, even when they come from just random players. But I tell you what, some of the guys on our VDT are really, really sharp. And of course, Ian's come up with a lot of ways to make some of those work. And didn't you tell me you actually coded at least half of the cards in the deck currently?
Yeah, I mean, I came on board in 2013, which wasn't that far into the game's life, but the sets were coming a lot faster. So that was during the coding of Shattered Fates, the 3rd set. Oh, that's the other thing. I named the sets, so that's nice. So any set that comes along, I used to work with Kyle Poole, the creator, very closely. So whether that would be coming up with set names or ideas for things like the foils, for example, the way that the foils are just a zoomed version of the existing artwork, the full art foils, that was my idea. So if people like those, that's me. Yeah. So Shattered Fates anyway. I coded, I think, all of that, and there was a lot of bugs with Dark Prophecies. And since Shattered Fates, there was Lost Lands, and now there was the campaign set. And I've just touched a lot of cards. We have gone back and balanced some of the cards that were printed. So some of that happened while I was away for the game for a while, focusing on a day job that wasn't Shadow Era. So yeah, I've probably touched actually the code of more than half of them now, for sure. I love it when we add a new card that's got similar effects to other ones, because then I can just look at, how did I do? So someone describes the effects and I go, right, that's quite similar to that card, and that card. So I'm going to look at the code to jog my memory, because it did used to be a case that there was quite a long gap between cards coming out. And so, I'm human. I'll forget how they worked. So I'd go back and go, oh, that's how I did that. Phew. I'm really glad I put some comments in the code there to tell me, what to do. Commenting code, going a bit techie now, seems to be a thing that's going away. Whereas it's been amazingly helpful in Shadow Era. When Jonathan bought the game, he's not only got all the IP and the accounts and the cards and so on, the card ideas, he's got the code. And the code, thankfully, has got a lot of good comments in that make it maintainable. You probably didn't see the code before you bought it. It could have been completely uncommented, in which case it's really hard to understand what's going on. So thankfully, there is a lot of clues in there. So when a new card comes up, as long as there's some similarities to other ones, you can go and look at those. And if it's a completely brand new effect, then that's where it could take like even a week to work out how to make it work if it's really radical. I remember the card Coercion. I don't know if you've played that. The one that takes somebody else's card permanently. You put an attachment on their card, and now that card is yours permanently until the attachment comes off. And that had so many different corner cases and things that needed to work correctly. It took more than a week to do. So if we make another one that's very similar to that, great. I'll borrow that code. Coercion, but what costs one less. Yes, lovely.
Perfect.
That's easy.
Perfect.
That's easy to code.
You said until the card comes off, but it's one turn, right? Because you take it, you use it against the person, and then it goes the creature.
Yeah,
right. Does it only last a turn, or have you got it forever? I can't remember.
No, just that last the one turn.
Right. One turn.
Okay,
but that's okay because
pull it off and so on. Yeah.
There are lots of ways to use that to your advantage, though. So I mean, once.
Kill it off, don't you, after you've abused it? Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I like to use Bog Dweller with that, so to go and eat them. But anyway, the thing is, something that Ian just touched on. If you do have if you have a card that does one thing, but it's a class card that other classes don't have access to, and you have another card that has a similar effect for a different class, it actually operates completely differently, even though the effects are similar, because it has a different combination available to it with the other class than it did with its original class. So the variety, and that's really what I love about Shadowrun the most, is that the variety is so intense compared to all the other games. You would have to have 10 times the number of cards, at least, in order to get the same kind of variety that you have with Shadow Era. But anyway, we are getting more comfortable with adding functions, not just card abilities. I'm getting more and more comfortable with the code, so that we can add, like Apple made us add that other function, which is ridiculous, but it delayed us for a week. But I have a better concept of how that is done now. So you're going to be seeing some new things in future updates other than just new cards. We're working on a solution for Meltdown. To have an AI opponent for Meltdown after a certain number of seconds waiting for a live opponent. If no one shows up, then the AI takes over, so you can actually play your Meltdown, right? That has a lot of promise, and I think it can revive that format. I know Ian doesn't like Meltdown so much, but I love it. I think it's great. Well, do you
want the backstory as to where Meltdown came from? Maybe you already know. So they were at It was at the Game Expo Origins in the US. I think it was early 2012, and they had these booster boxes of Call of the Crystals, the first set, and people were showing up, and they didn't have time to make a deck, so they just decided, right, you'll crack 4 packs, and you'll just make a deck out of those 4 packs without adhering to all of the kind of class rules and so on. So it was made up on the spot, really, just so people could play who just showed up at the booth. And then people with the physical cards were obviously playing that as well themselves at home or with friends. And then Carl just added it into the game. It's quite straightforward. And it stayed there for like 10 years. And it's gone through periods of costing gold to enter or costing shadow crystals to enter. Now it's completely free to enter. and my love-hate relationship with it is that the more people playing it, could they be actually playing the rated multiplayer? So you make it too good, and then people aren't playing the one where you want people getting paired up more regularly. Same with the campaign. We haven't talked about that at all, the single-player campaign. But that's something that you can play against the AI, either to go through the story or have a challenge or to learn the game. And that part's completely free. All of that story's there. And some people just play that. And if they're only playing that part, then again, there's a trade-off. They could be playing the multiplayer. They could go up against the great Sir Vato, when he's doing his laundry or whatever. You don't know what he'll be up to, but you could get paired with. It's not like you're a high rating, right? So they could get paired with you, even as a beginner. Yeah. So.
Yeah, which is great. I love beating up on beginners. I try to be a cordial ambassador for the game. If it's somebody that's new, I try to encourage them and all that. I'm sure. I don't know if you have access to chats. What I don't like is when you get somebody that's a bully there, because I'm like, if they're doing it to me because they don't know who I am, they're going to do it to a new player, and you kind of don't want that. You don't want people turned off by that. But I like to encourage new players. They're like, oh, it's my first time playing or whatever. I'm like, welcome, and if you have any questions, I can try to answer them. But it's so yeah. I don't know if you have access to those chat logs, because I've screenshotted a few just in case I ever need it for.
We do. We've got all the logs. We've got all the private messages as well. And when you message a player in the game, obviously that's stored somewhere in the database. And when you earn a reward for doing a monthly challenge or whatever, you get a little message sent to you that you can get to in the corner of the app. So that's kind of how I've ended up looking through the database occasionally. But you could probably write a book with some of the interactions between players with what they're talking about. Certain ones, definitely. So yeah, nothing's private, nothing's encrypted. The messages between players are not encrypted. We need to know what's going on.
Sure, of course.
Very rare. You would need to look.
Let me just reiterate: the word is supposed to be orale, not oral. So
right. Okay, when we find all of those
oral, question mark, oral. That's all I'm looking for. No, it's orale. So forgive me. Oh, and Ian, I really want to thank you, because you're in London, if I'm not mistaken.
Near London, yeah, Cambridge.
And it's got to be the middle of the night there. So thank you for spending some time with us here.
Yeah, it's 5 to 4 in the morning.
Yeah. Yes, everyone. Let's give
Ian my coffee. Yes.
Let's give him a round of applause, everyone, and let's give Shadow Era a round of applause.
Yeah.
Yeah, wonderful.
There was when you were mentioning about talking to a player in game, like new players, that probably would be a kind of an unfamiliar experience for somebody playing other games, to actually be able to chat and talk to players, because a lot of online games are quite toxic. And so if you can imagine Magic the Gathering or Hearthstone having the ability to just chat to anybody, it would just probably be full of people insulting each other.
100%.
Shadow Era, we put the trust in the players to behave themselves. And like you were saying, if you took a screenshot of something and reported it, then the person might get like a chat ban or something. We extend the opportunity to people to chat, make friends, and so on. And that's probably how we've become close with people in the community, because you chat, you join the game first, but then you make friends along the way, and then they end up staying your friends for more than a decade.
Sure. And I feel bad because I've never joined a guild, or I think that's what we call them. But I would like to. I still do. Again, it's just like if I find myself a little bit of time, I'm just going to play the game instead of like, oh, how do I sign up? And I've been invited by many people, and I feel bad for never really taking people up on that. But of course, Jonathan, I'll have to join your crew.
Yeah, you got to go to RS now. Come on.
I would love to.
So, my brother just started playing last week. My younger brother, and he joined freaking Team Juggernauts, TJ. I'm like, are you kidding me?
Is he
I'm not laughing because he didn't join RS. I'm just laughing he joined Juggernauts. Only joking. No.
Is he Ninja Bjork?
Yes, Bjork Ninja. That's him.
Bjork Ninja. Yes, because I saw that. I'm like, does Jonathan have 2 accounts? I go, what's going on here?
Yeah, no, that's my little brother David. He's in the military.
Okay. Okay. Great. Okay. So next time I'll at least say something because I was like, well, you didn't say hi, so it's probably not Jonathan. I go, but why would somebody take Jonathan's name? Like, I mean, obviously there's more people named, like you said, it's the Smith of Scandinavia, but I was like, this is a little strange that there's another Bjork on here. Bjork.
Yeah,
Ninja.
no doubt. Yeah, but no, he asked me actually. He said, if I'm going to get in a guild, I want to get into a guild that's going to tell me exactly what to play, and I'm, because he's like a good soldier type, like, all right, you tell me how to do it and I'll do it that way. He's not like me where you want to experiment and all this kind of stuff. So sure. I said, well, SCT or TJ for sure. So he went to TJ. So.
Wonderful.
If there are any Team Juggernauts people listening, then I've got to say I was just joking there. I mean, the guild that I originally joined was A1, and A1 and Team Juggernauts had a lot of, let's say, guild drama back in 2011, 2012, right? It's 10 years on, but still, even when I left A1 and I was all about developing the game and so on, people still thought that there was some kind of bias towards A1, he's really A1. I have now rejoined A1, but I don't wear the tag or anything. But I'm kind of surprised that people joke, don't they, about your guild, Jonathan, that, now that you've got special cheat codes and whatever for your guild to win because you own the game. It's just a laugh. And there's a lot of great people in Team Juggernauts.
It's the algorithm. You guys have fudged with the algorithm so that you win all the time.
Right.
That's why I want to join Jonathan's guild, of course. So is it as simple as doing a name change or is there
you have to apply? Period? You have to apply, and then there are things you have to accomplish in order to be approved after your probationary period. But then you're in, and it's almost impossible to get kicked out once you're in. So that is.
Folks, this is like Hell's Angels versus Mongols. It's these motorcycle clubs. Sorry, not gangs, motorcycle clubs. But the community is great, and just between guilds, it's amazing too. It's a wonderful community. I know that on Telegram, it's big, and people are very active also, and you get to meet people from all over the country and all over the world. Really, I mean, there are players from all over the world, so it's wonderful. What else? Is there anything else that you want folks to know about Shadow Era, or can they follow you guys personally as well on Instagram or Twitter? Are you on those platforms?
Yeah, we've got a Twitter and we've got a Facebook, and it's what is it? iShadow Era on Twitter.
You should look into getting Shadow Era again now, actually, on Twitter.
Is it now available?
Killing off inactive accounts. Someone made that account in something like 2010 called Shadow Era. No tweets, no nothing, but they've got that one. So that's why Kyle had to get iShadow Era.
But it's iShadow Era on and then there's Facebook, right? You gotta.
Yeah, Facebook. You search Shadow Era official, and you'll find Shadow Era.
Yeah,
it's got
no doubt.
7,000 likes on there.
And, listen, I've taken a lot of heat with the World Championship format that we put together this year, right? And the whole point of what we've done is to make it possible for players who are talented card players to get in the game and actually compete, even at a late stage like now, right? The World Championship happens in late February, right? So you can still join today, learn what you're doing, and go and place in one of those regional tournaments that are coming up, and you will get a slot in the World Championship to compete with the best. So there's 9 slots available through that kind of competition. I mean, it's probably a little bit late now to win your way in through the January sprint, but you can still win one of the 3 regionals.
Wonderful. I've never done it, and because it's always like, oh my God, it already passed. But I would love to, however I can participate this year, I would love to be a part of it. Again, it's so much fun. I've got so much time on my hands that I can do that I can do this.
Might need to change the planned format. Everybody play Elementalis, or if 2 heroes are required, then you can use the alt art version of Elementalis, and so still have 2 heroes. I don't know, just so you could take part. What Jonathan was saying,
feel like we almost have to stop talking about this, because I know that the women that are listening to this are just super excited. I mean, they are probably like, this is a real panty dropper conversation. So,
right? Hey, we have
plenty of those. When you're not on camera. So
we have 11% female participation.
That's wonderful. I think anything that's the more inclusive, the better. People with less representation, women, everyone. I mean, everyone, and that's the thing. The community's always been so welcoming to everyone. So I love it. Let's come one, come all, I say.
That's it. Yep.
Before we end, because we're kind of getting close to the end here, if you guys could maybe help me come up with a title for this episode, maybe think about it, and before we're done, we can, because I realized, why not just go to the people that I'm interviewing to come up with a name of the episode, besides just Jonathan, Bjork, and Ian Bolton. So if we can come up with something, that'd be great. And then before we end, I also like to ask maybe your heart message, which is what you'd like the world to know, either about yourself or what you're looking forward to in 2023. So if either one of you wants to go first, that'd be great. Just and anything else, where they can get a hold of you or connect with you or Shadow Era would be great. Would either one of you care to go first?
Yeah, go ahead, Ian.
Jonathan.
Oh, okay.
That's what it's like. We chat a lot on Telegram. The amount of conversation we've had since Jonathan took over the game, we've got a lot of back and forth. I think we've only had like 2 phone calls. Anyway, the heart message from me, I guess, is I really want people to enjoy their lives. When I put effort into the game, it's because I want people who are playing it, or people who are yet to play it, to have fun, to have a good time, make friends through guilds or just through the game. So really, all I've put into it, some of it was paid, some of it wasn't, is about making the game a good game so people just have a good time. And if that's what they get, then I'm happy. So I'm over the moon the game was saved, because otherwise all of this that I poured in would kind of be lost. So I'm just really happy that not only is it saved, but it's got a bright future as well. So that's my message.
Love it. So perfect.
Well, what I like to say is that to all those gamers out there, like me, like you guys, who grew up playing these kinds of games, and then you get out into the corporate world and you're doing your thing and you're in the grind and you feel like that's all behind you, and you miss those little gaming groups that you had when you were in high school and college and all that other kind of stuff, right? You're not alone. We're here. We're here for you. Come and be part of our group. And if you want to be involved, we'll get you involved either in a guild or as a tournament coordinator, or you have a family online just waiting for you at Shadow Era.
Amazing. Thank you. Thank you for sharing that. And I'm, about collaboration, community and collaboration. And it's also one of those things that done is better than perfect. It's what I've been working on myself, because of like this podcasting journey where I'm 7 or 8 behind, because I want to put out a perfect podcast and edit it and things like that. But maybe it's time to just start putting them out there. So, but I feel like, people just be okay with collaborating, because look at this amazing team that you guys have built there on Shadow Era. Yes. So thank you guys. And I want to thank the audience, of course, for being here. Thanks for sticking with us. I know that this isn't for everyone, but for the people that it is, I think it's wonderful. And it is such a welcoming community. We want everyone to enjoy themselves and, download Shadow Era. If you want to connect with me, yes. Yeah. Applause. If you want to connect with me, I'm at paulvato.com. From there, you can find everything Vato Cigars. You can find my new book, The Kama Sutra, which is a parody of the Kama Sutra. And you can find that at vato.com. TV. I also ask all of you to download Owwll, Owwll app besides Shadow Era, which is a great way to monetize your knowledge. You use the code VATO, VATO, and you'll get $10 so that you can use the app really for free. And download Shadow Era because you don't have to spend a penny, and it's thousands of hours of fun, or it could be hundreds, or it could be millions. I don't know, but it's just such great community over there. So if you're listening, at least please download it and give it a shot. And there's still time to join the World Championships, which are coming up at the end of February. Did you guys think of a good name for this episode? What do you think would be a couple of good titles that we could call this episode?
One, but it's more for the joke. I don't think you'll use it. The title is I meant orale.
I think that's pretty good. What I meant orale.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, we can come up with something. The first thing I thought of was the year of the return, but that's something else that we're doing. But we'll come up with something and send it to you.
Perfect. Yeah, please do something that lets people know that it's Shadow Era and the fun and the community. Building community through a trading card game. Something that the kind of that clickbaity title that sometimes I have troubles coming up with because I just want to let people know the facts, and then you're like, oh no, you've got to entice them to click on the episode. So
you won't believe this thing that you can do in this card game.
You won't believe Owwll ?
Oh my gosh. Thanks so much. I really appreciate you sharing us with your audience.
Oh, it is my absolute pleasure. This has been such a fun episode. Any final words, any last thoughts, anything else that you'd like to share with the folks?
Well, just come and play. We're open 24 hours a day, right?
24 hours a day. Thank you, Sonia. She left a message. She just saw the website, and it's very cool. I don't know if she meant paulvato.com or shadowera.com, but either one, they're both very cool. And I want to, thank you guys. And it's Ian, especially, you being up this early or staying up this late, probably staying up this late. You're
I'm going to have trouble falling asleep now, I think, but mostly due to the coffee, but also the chat. Yeah, but I'll try.
Wonderful. Well, you guys were amazing. Thank you for sharing your story, your journey, and talking about Shadow Era. And I'd love for you guys to come back and maybe we can do a part 2 and go from there. So thank you, Sonia. She checked out both websites, so she's wonderful. Thank you, everyone that was here. Give yourselves a round of applause, and thank you guys so much for spending some time with us here on Paul Vato Presents. Go to paulvato.com or go to paulvatopresents.com, where you can read all about our podcast and listen to some of the other episodes that we've had. So once again, thank you guys for being here. And